Okay, so I've got another question from Erica in Tunbridge Wells. Should we really be concerned about supplies of food and medicine, or are the newspapers scaremongering?
Uh, at this stage, I don't think there is an immediate need to be hurrying down to your local suppliers and stocking up on non-perishable goods. Two things. One, the system doesn't actually operate in a way that is really conducive to people stockpiling. What we know is when there are shortages of food, it's not because there's actually a shortage of supply, it's because people panic buy. If we say there's not enough food, people go out and buy food. You see it every time it snows in the south of England. The shelves empty because who knows when we can get to shops next, and it turns out to be tomorrow.
And you've got 10 loaves of bread, and what are you going to do with them?
So the system, the supermarket system operates on a just-in-time basis. So they have just enough food based on their planning to meet current needs. So they're not really scaled up for people buying extra food to stockpile. Medicines often will have a short shelf life, so you can't stockpile things. If we end up without a deal, you would expect that there would be disruption at borders, and that would have an impact on food supply. However, it's not that we'll only find that out on the 29th of March. We would find that out relatively soon, because if Parliament clearly rejects this deal, then we're likely heading for a no-deal exit. So at that point, you will see the rolling out of contingency plans, which aren't really very well worked up at this point, and maybe not particularly feasible at this point, because the problem isn't the number of ferries to carry stuff across the channel. It's more about, can those ferries dock and can they get some food on and off? So I think at this stage, I'm not stockpiling food or medicines, and I don't see a pressing need for that. So there would be a process that would become apparent in the event that that needed to happen. There would be contingencies, and also it's not in the EU's interest to end up with pictures of people going starving or suffering from the lack of medicine. So even though the relations between the UK and the EU would be really rubbish because this whole process these past few years has fallen apart, that still doesn't yet translate into a punitive kind of attitude from the EU. So I think you would try and find ways that you can work things out. So yeah, there might be some disruption, but how big and how long, I think, is entirely open for discussion. So no, I think carry on for now, and then if it changes, somebody will tell you.
It's quite hard, isn't it, to read kind of through the headlines and stuff and work out which bits you should respond to and which bits you can kind of be.
I think that is the real difficulty. Thinking about businesses, a lot of them want to make contingency plans they need to make in case there's no deal. Can't wait until the new year or March. They need to make decisions now. So I'm hearing about companies that maybe have to buy a subsidiary, create a subsidiary somewhere else in the EU, or have to buy a company to help with their supply chains, or it takes time to put these things in place. So as the agreement has kind of drifted back into the end of this year, companies say, well, I have to make a choice now. And so it's really frustrating for them, because either it's a waste of money for one reason, or it's a waste of money for another reason. And rightly, business has been more and more clamouring for, we just want to know what we're doing so we can plan in all of this. And yeah, I think, at a more limited scale, you see the same for individuals. EU citizens here in the UK citizens in the EU you can't just stop your life on a dime. You've got to think about your commitments, your obligations, what do you have to do. So yeah, I think it's one of the reasons why all of the evidence suggests that a no-deal Brexit is really problematic because it creates huge uncertainty. Just what legal standards are we working to? What regulations are things recognised? If you're a border control person at Dover, what is the procedure now, and what do I have to do that I didn't have to do before? All of that is up in the air, and what we know from reports from people like the National Audit Office is that things on border checks, all the processes you need to have in place, are not in place and not likely to be in place for the 29th of March. So if there is a no deal, we know that just practically the alternative arrangements aren't yet up and running and won't be up and running in time, which is another reason why people get concerned about that kind of outcome.
Yeah, understandably, yeah, it's difficult, isn't it?